Another incredibly inspirational person, David Harris, of the Mind Trust, president and CEO and architect of some of the change that occurred in Indianapolis as the charter school director originally. In 2007, Mr. Harris was selected with 24 other education leaders for the Aspen Institute and the New School Venture Fund's inaugural Entrepreneurial Leaders for Public Education program. He has his bachelor degree in political science from Northwestern University and a law degree from Indiana University School of Law. He serves on the boards of Nicholas Noyes Jr. Memorial Foundation, Lighthouse Academies, and local advisory boards for Teach for America, the New Teacher Project, and College Summit, three of the most change-oriented educational programs in our country today. So with that, I'd like to step down and thank them in advance for their willingness to share with all of us here in Dallas.
Thank you so much for having us here. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you to the mayor for being here, to the Dallas Faith Communities Coalition. I think faith is an important part of transforming our public education system, so I'm so pleased to see that this organization is taking a leadership role. There were two great lessons that we learned from our charter school initiative. One is that when you empower talented people to do things that they otherwise not be able to do, you get great results. And Mayor Peterson talked about some of the extraordinary results we had at charter schools in Indianapolis. The schools comprise 5% of the total school population, but 50% of the top 10 schools in the community. I think that you here have an example of what happens with talented people to get involved in education, the work that Tom Newhoff did. So congratulations to Tom for his great work. The other thing that we learned is that there was a real limitation in our ability to grow our charter school initiative because we didn't have enough talented people involved in our public education system. They didn't have enough opportunities to innovate. We also found that there was a limitation in our abilities, the ability of our school systems to respond to charter schools in the way that we had hoped to. So we set about a couple of years ago to launch a new nonprofit called the Mind Trust that was focused on attracting more talent into the public education system and giving talented people an opportunity to innovate within the public education system. We do far too little in this country to come up with creative ways to bring talent into our public education system. Jim Collins has his famous book, Good to Great. He has a chapter entitled, First Who, Then What? In which he argues that the companies that went from good to great were not the companies that had a leader that set a vision and then built a team around that vision. The companies that went from good to great were first the companies that built that strong team. Before they even figured out where they were going, they built that strong team. And when you have that great team, you inevitably go in a positive direction. Public education has really done the opposite in this country. We have had decades of debates about what to do in public education, from class sizes to school sizes to curriculum to whatever it may be, the latest reform. But we do far too little to attract talent into the system and to empower talent. So that's really what the focus of the Mind Trust is filling that gap in our community. We have two principal strategies that we're pursuing to achieve those goals. First, we created what we call our venture fund that we use to help the most successful entrepreneurial leaders from around the country expand their proven models to Indianapolis. So we've invested about $3 million in 4 organizations. The first is Teach for America, which the founder is a Dallas native, the most successful and famous entrepreneurial venture in the United States today. A phenomenal success story of getting the country's most talented recent college graduates to teach in our most challenging urban and rural schools. They make an enormous difference, not only in the classrooms where they teach, and there's a lot of evidence to show that they are doing better than traditionally trained teachers on a variety of measures. But frankly, the most important thing for us in getting Teach for America in Indianapolis is that's a pipeline of talent to do all kinds of things. To be principals, to be superintendents, to start charter schools, to be education advisors to elected officials, to go into the private sector and be champions for public education. We just thought that was so central to our vision for transforming our city was to get Teach for America here. The second organization that we brought to Indianapolis, established national organization, is the New Teacher Project, which is a spin-off of Teach for America that focuses on getting mid-career professionals to transition into teaching and to fill difficult-to-fill teaching positions, math, science, special education. It spans those 4 areas in Indianapolis where they focus. And they have been phenomenally successful. They're in their 3rd year of recruiting for about 50 teachers they brought into the Indianapolis Public School each of the last couple of years. They've had over 800 applicants for those 50 spots each year. Almost all of those people from Indianapolis, people from a whole wide variety of backgrounds that want to get involved in public education but are stymied by the regulatory system that we've set up that really keeps talented people out rather than brings them in. And there are a whole host of great stories out of this program. I'll just tell one. We have a scientist who went to one of our most challenged high schools in Indianapolis and decided to organize a group of kids to perform in the state science bowl. Now, as far as anybody knows, nobody from this school had ever participated in the state science bowl. So this teacher was able to organize this group of folks, these group of young people that actually go in to participate, which is great, but that's just the beginning of the story. They not only participated in the state science bowl, but they went to the state finals. And in the state finals, they beat our most exclusive private school in the entire state of Indiana. Just an enormous achievement. And these kids, but for this person believing in them, would never have had that opportunity to show the skills that they had. The third organization that we brought is College Summit. It's been phenomenally successful at helping low-income students navigate the college application process. In this country, the low-income students go to college at appallingly low rates. Low-income students with A and B averages go to college at the same rate as higher-income students with D averages. To think that that's true in America is just unconscionable. And then the final organization that we brought is a Gates Foundation-funded high school model called Diploma Plus that focuses on what are typically referred to as overage and undercredited kids. So a 17-year-old who's got the credits of a freshman who is a prime candidate for dropping out of the school has developed a very successful model for helping to keep those kids in and to actually go on to graduate from high school and matriculate into college. The other initiative that we have, really our signature initiative, is our Education Entrepreneur Fellowship. And we are so grateful to the Challenge Foundation, BJ, for their extraordinary support of this program. They were our major supporters of this and really propelled it forward and helped us launch it. And what the fellowship is really about is empowering talented people to innovate within our public education system. And then unfortunately, there's a huge need for this. We all know that innovation is what has driven America to be the great country that it is. But there are very few opportunities for people to innovate within the public education system. If you're in the private sector, and you're an entrepreneur, and you have an idea that people believe in, you're likely going to get investors because there's an incentive to invest in entrepreneurs. You can get a return on that investment. But in the social sector, that same incentive doesn't apply. So where do you turn if you're an education entrepreneur? Well, you can turn to the traditional grant-making bodies, foundations, and governments. But that's a challenge because most, certainly not all, but most traditional grant-making organizations tend to prefer to invest in organizations that have long track records because that feels safer than investing in some individual who has some crazy idea for transforming public education. The problem is that none of the great education initiatives in this country have come out of big, bulky, established organizations. It's the same in the private sector. Innovation comes from individuals who have opportunities to innovate. So we launched the Mind Trust to fill that gap. Last year was the first year that we launched the fellowship. We had 4 fellowships to offer. And we had 488 people from 37 states and 6 countries apply for those 4 fellowships. And when you think about that, brand new fellowship, we didn't have a huge advertising budget to go out and communicate this. We're in a city that's not on everybody's radar screen. And yet 488 people from all across the country and beyond applied to be part of this program. It's really exceptional. And not just the numbers, but the caliber of these folks is astounding. We had people who had worked for NASA that applied, the CIA, the Peace Corps, and Apple, and graduates of all the top universities in the country.